this video is going to be about speakers, more precisely ADAM speakers. So I just got a new pair of ADAM S2V. Those are high-end studio monitors and I'm really happy about it. That's all I can say. I had them about a month ago, something like that. And I had enough time to try them and to really have an opinion about it. In this video I'm going to talk about those speakers as well as some more budget-friendly speakers from ADAM. I also want to talk about the price differences, so this way you can make your choice when you buy speakers. And before doing that, I want to give you some tips so you can get the most out of your speakers. Let's not wait any longer and let's get started. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is the speaker's placement. So ideally you want to form a triangle between you and both speakers. It means the distance needs to be the same between you and each speakers and between both speakers as well. You also want to point the speakers directly at you. If you want to be really precise about it, it should be an angle of 60 degrees. And there's also the height to consider. So ideally the tweeter should be at the same height as your ears. If you don't really know what I'm talking about here, the tweeter is the top part of your speakers and it handles the high frequencies. Then below the tweeter you have the woofer and it handles the mids and the lows. Another thing to consider is to have some space between the speakers and the wall. And this way you avoid some sound reflections issue. It means that the sound is not going to bounce off the wall and then you don't have resonance problems. Which leads to my last tip. I would advise you to invest in some sort of acoustic treatment for your room. For example, in this studio, it's a pretty good example. You don't have reverb and you don't have sound reflections issue. If you want to double check with your room, you can just clap your hand. And if you hear a lot of reverb, it means that it's probably not a good sign. Once again, you want to avoid sound reflections issues, so this way you can listen to music in the most natural way possible. It's not going to be biased. That's enough of me talking about the placement. Now I'm going to talk about the price differences and the different series. ADAM has three different series, the A, the T and the S series. It basically goes from entry level to mid-range to professional speakers. If you don't really know too much about speakers and you want to buy your first pair, I would advise you to go for some near-field monitors. This is basically the main type of speakers for mixing engineers. I'm going to look at a few different speakers and compare the specifications. So if I take the T5 for example, which is a smaller speaker, it should produce less bass as we saw before. So we have 45 Hz up to 25 kHz. And if I look at the biggest one from the T series, it can go up to 33 Hz and again 25 kHz. Let's compare, for example, with the A series, the A7V, for example. Here I have a frequency response of 40 Hz and 45 kHz. So, as we can see, it can produce slightly less bass, but it doesn't mean that the T series is better. This probably makes a way bigger difference. 45 kHz, it's probably gonna give you way more details in the top end, in the high end. And if I look at the S2V, which is the one I have, we have 35 Hz up to 50 kHz. So that's one thing to consider, the frequency response of your speakers and the size of your woofer. You also have other information. For example, here you have the max SPL, which is basically how loud your speakers can play music. And as we can see, the S series can be louder than, for example, the T series, even though the woofer is a bit smaller on the S series. So, having that in mind, if you mix in your room, for example, you probably don't need a speakers that play that loud. So, for about the same price, you might want to invest in, for example, the A series, which is smaller, but again, it's gonna have a better sound quality and it's going to be more precise in terms of sound. So it might be a better option if you're looking for some mixing monitors. Another thing to think about is the EQ. On pretty much every speakers, at the back of it, you have some EQ settings. A few reasons for that. The first one is to tweak it according to your room. So as we saw before, you might have some reflections issues in your room. For example, if you have too much bass reflections, you can tame the bass frequencies at the back of your speakers. Another reasons for that is just personal taste. Let's say you prefer mixing a certain way, then you can just boost or tame some frequencies. If we look at the T series, it's pretty basic, so you just have the control over the high frequencies and the lows. And I think that's it for what I can see. But if we look at the A series, you have what they call room adaptation. And again, this is to try to compensate for the sound reflections. If we look now at the S series, they take it even a step further. So you can plug the speakers via USB and you can really tweak it very precisely. That's one thing. And on top of that, you can also save up to 5 different presets. The first 2 presets are from ADAM and the first one is called Pure. This is basically the flattest frequency response you can have, and you're gonna hear the music as it really is. The second one is called UNR and it stands for Uniform Natural Response, and it's more, let's say, natural way to listen to music like we more used to. A different experience depending on what you want really, but for my taste I want to have the flattest frequency response possible, so I go for the first preset. That's it for today. Let me know in the comments what speakers brand and series you have. If you also have ADAM speakers, let me know your opinion about it. Personally, I really like it and I'm happy to have invested in those speakers. And just as a test, at the end of the video, I'm doing a comparison between my old speakers and those new ones. The only way to really hear the difference would be to try them in a music store, for example. But the solution I found here was to place a mic here, and then I had the speakers at the exact same position, and still you can really hear the difference. You can really hear how much more precise they are, the new speakers I have, the ADAM S2V. To me, it's just that I can hear things that I couldn't really hear on other headphones or speakers, and it makes such a big difference when it comes to mixing and mastering. Alright, I'll let you decide by yourself. That's it for today. Subscribe to my channel if you liked it. I'll see you next week for a new video. Stay tuned, take care, bye bye.
Said it'd be easy. I know I have to make it worth it. I know I have to put the work in. It doesn't have to be perfect. Time and time and time and time again, I'm sitting with my only thoughts and I'm my only friend. I do this shit in real life, no time to play pretend. So time and time and time and time again.
So it's time again, I rewind again, I rethink, changing my mind again. Let's go for a trip out on a ride again. We break up, fall out and then we find again. It's changed since then, we get the same since then. Bridges burn, tables turn from boys